Hiya BookTube, Bill Ruttenberg here with the Ruttenberg Library. It's Tag Tuesday, and so I picked a tag that was created, I believe it was last week, by Jason at Byways and Bookland. He was in the shopping for some food in the supermarket, and he came up with the supermarket shopping book tag. And so I've been listening to a few of you out there doing this, and I think I'm going to do it as well. I'll put a few of the links in the description to some of the videos that I've seen. I saw Steve Donahue do it, and of course I saw Jason's, and I mean there's been a few of them that I've watched. So I'll put links to those down in the descriptions down below, and I'll put the the questions and everything for the tag. So anyway, let's go ahead and get this tag started. So again, this is the supermarket shopping book tag. So question number 1 is list before going book shopping, including virtually. Do you have a list? Yes, I do. I have not just one list, 2 lists, 3 lists. I've got many lists. One of my habits that I have, and I have no idea where I got this habit, how I got this habit, but I don't know if I'm OCD or what, but when I get my nonfiction books and I get them read, I go to the back where the bibliography is, and I write out all the books that they mention in there. And so then, after a while, I start seeing some of the same books over and over after cross-referencing them, and I've got an idea of what books I want. If all the major authors are using them as sources, I should probably be using them as sources. And so just to give you an idea, this is from earlier in the year when I read The Impending Crisis. That's straight out of, and this is several pages long. I'm not going to show you every page, but yes, I've got shopping lists. And then so I subscribe to the American Revolution Journal, I think is what it's called, and they send me links to the new articles that come out and any new books that come out on the American Revolution, and sometimes they'll have pictures of those, and I take those pictures off and I put them in a folder on my desktop, and so then I have kind of a list of new books that are out that I might want to purchase. So when I go shopping for books, yes, I do have a list. And I also don't want to forget, on my phone I've been listing books that you guys have been recommending out on BookTube. So long answer to a pretty short question. Yes, I do have lists that I use. Question number 2, the fruit and vegetable section. Good for the body and mind. Recommend a book you felt improved your physical and mental health. All right, so I went with, because I like to eat, I've shared that with you before, I like to eat, and it's probably not real great on my health sometimes because I don't always eat healthy, but my wife likes to try to make me eat healthy. And one of the kicks that she's been on, she is on her Instagram, she follows this gal, Brittany Williams, and she's got a couple of her cookbooks, and Brittany Williams has a good story about her weight loss that she went through. There's the before and after, and these are the foods that she chose, and they were healthy choices, and she talks about the exercise that goes with it, and then the healthy choices in eating, and just making your lifestyle work for you. And we got to go to Kansas City and listen to a book talk that she did before everything closed down. A book talk that she did, and she actually got her book signed, my wife did. And so yeah, so that was kind of cool. We got her picture and everything. But anyway, this has got a whole lot of different types of food that we don't eat all of them, but we eat some of them. Sometimes my wife can get me to eat them. Sometimes she can't. It's trial and error type stuff. But like a food scramble. And then she's got the story that goes with it along with the recipe. But those are the ones I would recommend. The food in this has been for the most part, pretty good. I've enjoyed eating it, and it has been probably better for my health than if I was the one choosing the food. All right, so question number 3, tinned goods. Regardless of the label on the can, the contents are all too often bland. What's your tin can genre? And for me, I think current day political biographies. You know, the biographies that are written by the people who are currently running for office. They're not dead. It's not 25 years past the events that are, you know, taking place. Those ones that are happening right now and the biographies that go with them, they are so one-sided and typically not very well written. I can't stand them. I don't read them. And a lot of times there's histories that are written as the events or right after the events have happened, and typically those are not very good either, because they're just so one-sided and biased that I don't know, they're bland to me. I can't stand them. And so that's my choice. I didn't have a particular one, but well, I guess it just asked for a genre. So there's the genre that I would pick, the current day biography of, maybe I should say contemporary biography. Maybe that's a way of putting it. Number 4, meat and fish counter. Prepared by a skilled butcher or fishmonger, just how you want it. Tell us about a book you felt was written just for you. Okay, so I chose 2 by the same author, and I felt they were written just for me. It was Jerry B. Jenkins. Here's a picture of Jerry Jenkins. He wrote the book Hometown Legend, and he wrote the book The Youngest Hero. And this is, as you guys know, if you follow the channel, I'm a sports guy. I always liked sports. Sports did a lot for me when I was younger. They gave me, you know, when things were troubled, they gave me a place to focus. And both of these books are about young men who one's football. The Hometown Legend's about a football player, and this one's about a baseball player. And they're about a couple of kids that are having troubles in their life. Kind of like, you know, they kind of touch my heart just because of that. They're having troubles in their life. They're trying to make things work, and these sports are what gets them through it. And I liked both of these books. Both the kids are heroes in a way, and it just went with my sports and the being in school theme that I like. Number 5, baked goods. Bread is a staple for many around the world. Who is an author you can easily digest at any time of the day? All right, and you guys have heard me speak of this one before. I chose Bruce Canton, Civil War historian. And I have, the first one that I read by him was The Short History of the Civil War. I absolutely loved this book. This is just an awesome book. And you can see it's not very big, but it does a great job of telling the story of the Civil War. It's just an overview, but I just think it did such a great job. For me, not only does it read well, but for me it was when I was teaching this as a first-time middle school teacher. This was one of the first books I picked up on the Civil War. And after I got done teaching it, after a couple of years, I read this and I realized, you know what? It was kind of an attaboy, because I was hitting the major themes I needed to be hitting, and I still feel I do it correctly. And Bruce Canton's book kind of reassured me there, and it's such an easy flowing, easy to read. And his book, The Coming Fury, that was a great book. The first of, I believe it's a trilogy on the Civil War. That was good. I've read one by him about Gettysburg. I've read one. There's another one. What was the other one about? It was something with Civil War that I read. And they've all been good. And I've got some more on the shelf that I have not read yet by him. But he is always easy to digest, easy to understand. You're not going to get lost in that. If you're a person recently coming to the Civil War looking for somebody to read Bruce Canton. He's somebody I would highly recommend if you're kind of a rookie to the Civil War. All right, chilled section. Recommend a cool new author or book you recently discovered. Okay, again, if you follow the channel, you're not going to be surprised by this, and it's recent to me. This is the first one I've read by John Keegan, the American Civil War, A Military History. He's first-time author for me. I've got a couple other books. I just haven't read them yet, and it was a good book. He's a great military historian. I think he does a really good job. He hit the major themes. It's nothing that's going to really bog you down, his style of writing, so I would recommend him. All right, number 7. Tell us about a book that gave you the shivers. I had struggled with this. There's several Stephen King books that give me the shivers, just as I was reading them. A couple that came to mind, there's in The Shining. There's some, I felt like, demonic stuff happening with the main character, especially in the very beginning, and I can remember my arm hair standing up straight on end when I was reading it. He hadn't even got to, in the storyline, he hadn't even got to the hotel yet, and it was really early on, and it made me shiver. And then another book, It, when the guy is looking down the drain, hearing the voices, and that really gave me the shivers for some reason. And so I would pick those two books. I think some of Stephen King's stuff is kind of wicked. All right, number 8, Beers, Wines, and Spirits. Name one of the first books you read that made you feel like an adult. I got to thinking about this. I was trying to figure out how far back do I need to go. And see, I struggled when I was in school with some of the books that my friends were reading. They were reading, like when we were in middle school, I had a kid reading It, and I couldn't read it. My mind, I don't think, was ready for that. And then when we were in high school, I had my high school teacher recommend John Jakes, and I tried it in high school, and I don't know if it was maturity, and I just wasn't ready for it. But then my senior year, I was taking a class, Great Books, and we were going through several books. And so that's where my mind was kind of headed for this question, was which one of those made me feel like an adult. And, we read Gulliver's Travels. That one didn't do it. I pretty much understood everything that was going on in there. We read, it was just several books, but one of them that really did make me feel like I'd actually entered the adult world of reading was, we read the Iliad and the Odyssey by Homer. And so I brought a copy of the Iliad from my library upstairs. And I can't remember if it was the Iliad or the Odyssey or if we read both. I can't remember. But my senior year, I will never forget. The reason I chose this one is I'll never forget. I was reading the first chapter, and of course it's all done in the old, you got to get your mind wrapped around how it sounds. I had to read the first chapter 4, 5, 6 different times before I finally got with the flow of the writing. And then as soon as I read it, or as soon as I got with the flow and I got to reading it, I loved it. I loved the story. It was absolutely great. But like I said, the reason I chose this one to make me feel like an adult, I actually had to work at it. I had to work at it to understand it. And it was extremely frustrating to begin with because I'd never had to work at a book like that. And so that's why I chose Homer's The Iliad, and it might have been the Odyssey. I can't remember which one we were reading, but anyway. So sweets, candies. This is number 9. What genre or author is your indulgence when you need a little treat to read? I'm going to go with genre, and it's historical fiction. I love fiction, and the reason I like historical fiction as my sweet or my candy is it gets me the genre I like, but yet I don't have to necessarily remember it all. Like, you know what I mean? Like with my nonfiction, I got to try to remember that and put it into place and put it into all the context and stuff. Whereas when it's historical fiction, you don't necessarily have to remember all of that because it's just a fun read. So that's what I chose for that. So number 10, last question here, number 10, magazine stand. If you read magazines or journals regularly, share some of the titles with us. So I went upstairs and picked a few out of the pile. These are not necessarily, they're recent, but not like this month's. So I read National Geographic. I don't read it as much anymore. Some of the articles now just don't interest me. Some of the stuff they've been doing over the last year or two didn't necessarily interest me, but there's a copy of The Genius of the Inca. So I liked stuff with history that was in National Geographic or with cultures. So National Geographic is one that I've always liked. I like Civil War Times, and there's a couple different versions that HistoryNet puts out on the Civil Wars, a couple different magazines. I like both of them. So Civil War Times. I like to read American History Magazine. I like to read Archaeology Magazine. And at one time I had a subscription to Biblical Archaeology, and that was good as well. I've had a subscription to World War II magazine. Didn't bring down a copy of that. And then I also like Smithsonian magazine. So I like all of these because they go with, you know, just my theme of history and cultures and stuff like that. Just kind of suits me and my reading. So number 11 is the checkout. It's time to go home and unpack. Tag some shoppers on their way in. So I am going to tag Johnny Keene, and I would like to tag the Bookish Bryants. I know Alan Braswell tagged the Bookish Bryants on his. I want to tag them as well. Haven't seen any videos from them for a while, and so I'd love to see a video by them. So I tagged those two. Thank you to Jason over at Byways and Bookland for making this tag. Pretty creative. It was fun to do. And thank you for watching the video. And BookTube, you have a great day.